Hi.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
How was Massachusetts for you?
Boston. I loved Boston. Clam chowder.
Chowder.
Hi, we're the Care Kids.
Our parents are crazy. They want to take us on a year-long trip.
They call it an empathy expedition.
We're traveling the states to discover what makes us united.
50 states and 52 weeks.
And I saw you, 'cause I wanna be like the wind. I wanna run with you. Oh, we can be wolves, howling at the great white moon. I wanna be by your side when we light up the sky for the world to see. Run, 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 run with me.
In Massachusetts, we went to Plymouth. We went to Salem. We went to Boston. We went to Cape Cod.
And then down to the cranberry bogs.
And the cranberry bogs.
Today we're in Boston on the Freedom Trail.
Let's go.
So there's just something about walking in the footsteps of where people have actually walked before you, and you've heard about these people and you've heard about people's lives and always been like, oh, that's interesting, you know, they were a founding father, or oh, that's where the Boston Massacre happened, or that's where the Boston Tea Party, this thing that set in motion, you know, the evolution of our country and where it is today. Then when you go there, it becomes foundational to you.
Yeah, I'm always grateful for the state and national historical centers too that preserve them so well.
In Massachusetts itself, you can see the fuel that fueled so many different movements. If you look at our country like a car, and you were to say, okay, what do we put in our fuel tank? Boston was like that was like the fill-up station. Like that was really like the place that everything got, you know, started. There was this intense like anger in some ways, and intense like fear in other ways, and intense like hope for the future in so many other ways. For example, Massachusetts, Boston was the very first site of public schools.
On the corner of this lot is where the first American public school was. It was relocated later.
Hopscotch. Look.
It looks like it, but I don't
It
think
is
it is.
hopscotch.
See, it has the numbers in the corner.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
8, 9, 10.
The school was here from 1635 to 1749, and some of the alumni include Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Benjamin Franklin, and Ralph Waldo Emerson. America's first free public school.
If you look at Massachusetts, it's almost like it's the filling station for so many different things. For some people, it was the fuel that filled them was fear.
We're in Salem, Massachusetts at the Salem Witch Trials Memorial.
That was evident in Salem. You look at these people's lives that were sacrificed because somebody was afraid of how they looked. They looked different, or they acted different, and so immediately they said, oh, they're a witch, burn them. You know, you hear about the Salem witch trials and growing up, I remember hearing about them and being like, that's pretty crazy. And trying to put yourself in both camps, like, whether it's like fear, which is oftentimes so much of what fuels us in our actions. So often we're fueled by fear so much more than we're fueled by like love or like belief or hope. And like you look at that, and then in other places you look at the fuel that filled these people who came to Massachusetts. You look at Plymouth. And
The Boston Tea Party, another one, just totally fueled with like, we want our future to look different than what England wants our future to look like, and so we're gonna make it happen. It's like, they were like of course there have been hundreds of examples before the Boston Tea Party of people that have stood up against something that they didn't believe in, and made a stand for, and just spoke out against something that wasn't right, and made footsteps forward for their future. But the Boston Tea Party Party was such an interesting one, where they, you know, all the taxation and all the just unjust penalties that were just making it so hard for them to thrive, and they were like, we're done, we're chucking your tea in the water, and we're making a stand. And
yeah, it's interesting because the fuel that feeds a revolution is hope. Like, that's really, I mean, that's a Star Wars line. But it is. But
I like it.
But it's true.
It's a good one.
It is a good one because it's true. It's something that fed the Revolutionary War. It's something that fed the Pilgrims coming from Plymouth. It fed them hope. Was something, and so that's something that I think has been really interesting on this journey for us, is to see the hope that we have for our kids, and the hope that we have. We want them to walk in these footsteps of these places, to walk on the Freedom Trail and see the hope that somebody started with, and then ask them, you know, what's your hope in the future? What are you trying to do?
What fueled our forefathers? It is really cool to think about the fact that there were these amazing natives who already lived here, and then there was this whole influx of these people, you know, who were all just like running for freedom, and just the mix of the two is what we've got today, right? Just and we've continued to have that, just influxes of people from countries all over the world into the melting pot that is America, and that's what makes us so diverse. That's what makes us so strong.
Yeah.
That's what makes us so beautiful as a country. I think just the diversity and the fact that so many people that have come here are looking for something better. They're looking for a future that's filled with more hope and more freedom and more happiness than they once knew, and they're willing to fight to create it and to love to create it.
Grab one.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd let us. Cranberry bog. That's all I have to say. One word. Cranberry bog.
When we were in New Hampshire, we had a friend tell us that we were going to be in Boston at the perfect time. In the fall is when they harvest the cranberries. So we were super excited about that. Didn't even know cranberries were harvested in Boston or in Massachusetts until we talked to her. But she told us, yeah, to go down just south of Boston, and there are farmers all over the place.
Initially, these bogs are all dry. So we flood the bogs, and we flood them to just above the vines, and then we send through what we call a water harvester or a water reel. And so it will actually have like a paddle wheel on it, or it may have harrows. And so the cranberries are held onto the vine with a very thin stem, and all they need is just a little bit of agitation, and the cranberries will come off of the vine. And since they're made mostly of air, they'll float on the water. And so after all the berries are knocked off, they add a little bit more water to the cranberry bog, and then they put these floatable booms in them, and they use them to corral the cranberries, and they get them into a certain area, and then they push them into a vacuum. It's all the water and the cranberries come up through, and then they're exposed to high pressure water up on the top of the truck. That pushes out a lot of the debris. The debris goes into a dump truck, and the cranberries get deposited into a trailer. And then once the trailer's full, it goes off to a handling facility where the berries are washed again. And then they're usually quickly frozen until they're made into jellies or juices or other processed products.
I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for people who don't live in that area to go into a cranberry bog.
11s, yeah.
11s.
Grab one for me too.
What shoe size do I wear?
Small shoes. Don't get me because I'm perfect.
You got it twisted, dude.
How do I even do that?
I don't know.
Okay, you don't need to film this.
What are you doing?
Look. Am I putting them on backwards or?
No, you got it right.
No, because look, that's not the right shoe.
That's right.
No? Look.
Go back there.
That's left. You can barely walk.
No, I can't. I can walk.
Will you help me?
Wait for us.
And it feels, it's so interesting. You step down in, and it feels like the water is sucking in on your legs.
It does, yeah.
It feels like,
Suctions in.
yeah, it feels like you're being sucked into this pool.
Because you are. Yeah, it does suck in.
Yeah.
I'm joking! I'm joking!
Amelia, I bet you could come over here. Come here. Come here. I promise I'll watch you. Please.
You guys want to play Ring Around the Rosie?
No. Don't go too far.
And it sounds dreamy, like out in Massachusetts, like, you know, swimming around in the cranberries with your kids. It was cold and rainy that day.
Freezing. You know that feeling when water like you get a little bit of rain and water creeps down the back of your neck and down your shirt, and it just shivers all the way down. Like that's what it was like everywhere,
Yeah.
not just on your neck.
Your whole body was just kind of crawling with coldness and water, but it was so cool and so pretty. Amelia still talks about it as the worst day of her life.
She said the best day and the worst day.
Yep, she loved it because it was so unique and so pretty. The cranberries are just so bright and beautiful. It looks like a mosaic, you know, of fruit just all around you. Like you don't ever swim in fruit, and you're totally swimming in fruit, you know.
Yeah.
But it was cold and rainy. Luckily it wasn't freezing cold.
No.
It was kind of cold and really rainy. We were soaked completely all the way through our clothes. We're completely soaked. And then we were standing in water, and then of course Amelia steps down into the cranberry bog and nose dives, or face dives, yeah, into the water, and so then she was really, really not having fun. There was this funny lady that we loved to observe on the bus. She was there with her daughter, and they had brought her daughter's children to see the cranberry bogs and to the cranberry festival. And it was just so funny to watch from an outside point of view. I think people probably do this with us sometimes.
Oh,
You
I'm
watch
sure.
us and go, "Did you just see them? That was hilarious!" But it was so funny because the daughter had such a good attitude. She's like laughing with her kids. "We are soaked. This is so fun. This is so funny." And the mom was just furious. She was like, "If I'd known it was gonna rain, I would have turned around the second we got in the car."
Why didn't they tell us the weather was gonna be like this? Why didn't they say it was gonna be so cold out here?
Yeah. And we figured that out throughout this trip too, that from day to day, one of us is the glass half full, another day you're the glass half empty, but luckily you're surrounded by people who kind of remind you, it's probably healthier and just a better way to live to see that glass half full.
So yeah, what fuels you? That's the big takeaway I think for me from Massachusetts, because it really was
The fuel for the nation's future, huh?
Yeah. So this week, as you think about that, think about, what are my actions? What fuels me? Because that's what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.